Hello, everybody. Well, what a tonic a Quizzy Monday like that is for the soul. Such a great evening, 3 brilliant quizzes culminating in a fantastic episode of University Challenge. We're delighted that later on we're going to be joined by Danny McMillan from the Victoria's Birkbeck team, and we'll hear about his buzzing that was so critical to the excitement in that match. In a moment, I'm going to bring on Thea and Elizabeth from the Stitchers and Jack and Sam from the Thrifters to talk about Only Connect. But before we do that, just a few announcements and things to tell you about. So, here is a gurning person you might recognize wearing one of our Merry Quizmas t-shirts. Yes, I do buy this stuff. In fact, you can see me wearing another one of the shirts from our store, tinyurl.com/ATQ store if you want any of our merch. Last week's What is the Question winner was this question by Michael Forasek. The answer was 5. His question was, as a safety precaution when firing explosives or guns, what number is customarily omitted from military countdowns? Well done to Michael. This week's answer in need of a question is red, and we had lots of submissions, and you can now vote on the shortlist at tinyurl.com/WITQ-red. Lunchtime quiz time is still going on. There's a very Christmassy theme right now. This was today's question. We release it every day on Facebook and Twitter. And later on in the day, we give you the answer and some additional information. So look out for that. Now, let me see. That might be the extent. It is. So we'll get onto the other stuff later. That was a little glimpse of the Mastermind Prediction Competition. We will talk about that later, and we'll also talk about Quiz Week and the news from the world of quiz. Don't forget, in the chat, you can put in your comments. Oh, hello. Claire says, my ATQ hoodie arrived today. I'll wear it on next week's show, assuming we're invited. Of course, Claire, you are invited. That's a tasty looking episode next week because we have the also rans and we have the video nasties. Please do wear it. It will be absolutely great. We got usuals in there. Gerard has been asking Roger Tilling if he does farmyard impressions. And his 9-year-old niece also got her first 3-pointer. So, everybody, good to see you. Let us bring on from the Thrifters, Jack and Sam, and from the Stitchers, Thea and Elizabeth. Evening all.
Hello.
Evening.
Well, that was great. It's bittersweet at this time of the season, though, isn't it? You get to enjoy really good matches, really lovely teams that you've grown to love, and then you have to say goodbye to one of them. Elizabeth, Thea, and Rachel, if you watch this at some point, it was a lovely game, but sad to see you go. All these months later, how does it feel watching it back?
Kind of surreal because I don't remember any of the filming of that episode, I think. So it was a complete surprise to me what questions came up.
I found it quite stressful initially because there were like 2 of the questions that we didn't get that I felt I should have gotten at the time. And I was really stressed about it. And then we lost by so much at the end that I was like, actually, it's completely immaterial and I should just sort of be along for the ride. But it was quite stressful watching it, even though I knew what was going to happen.
Is it easier when it's a large defeat margin? I say large, but more than a couple of questions, then nobody can say, "Oh, well, it was all down to me."
I think in a way, yeah, because I think we've been speaking to the Gunners, and they obviously only lost by like 1 point or something like that. And so they were saying like, if they'd buzzed in earlier for something, or if they got another vowel, they would have got through. Whereas we're like, it's what it is.
Yeah, it makes it hard to like obsess about specific things you didn't do, because if you don't any of those one specific things, we'd be in the same position. So it's kind of nice in that sense.
Indeed. We've got in the chat, we got Dan Peake, Puzzle Dan, Thrifters, let's go. But the Stitchers were a great team, was pulling for both, to be honest. Dan is one of the people that kind of helps put together the fun and enjoyment we have on Only Connect. So good to see you in there, Dan. Jack and Sam, watching it back, was there anything that surprised you about the game and how it played out? Or was it pretty much as you remembered it?
No, I didn't remember a lot of the questions. I think this episode, out of all of the ones we filmed, is like the one that I remember the least about. Like, I genuinely, I can remember the bird question because I remember not getting that. And then the rest of it was pretty much a blur. The wall that I thought I remembered us playing, that's the one in the semi-final. So genuinely, like, I had no idea what was happening at this point. But
it's definitely a case of we neck falling a bit behind in the first
Nope.
round. You get
Jack, we lost you there for a minute. Sorry.
Oh, hello.
Yeah.
You're back.
You get into that sort of like bunker mentality, like we especially within Cockrell. So I remember it just being sort of like question by question, sort of
And analysing it, yeah.
advanced each time.
Apparently, I made a faux pas. We Like Shape says, sorry, Puzzle Dan, you've been mistaken for Quizzy Dan again.
Easily done.
I mean, there are just so many Dans. Now, Thrifters, that first question, because we've had, you mentioned it, and Pam will be in the chat. She would have loved that. What are birds? We just don't know. But after 2 clues, were you tempted to just buzz and go, they're all birds? Pretty
much, yeah. Like I was like, when I saw the second picture, I knew they're all birds. I was like, I'm not getting this question unless the connection is literally they are all birds. I was like, this is. And I'm aware of the irony that I was wearing a shirt with birds on it and not knowing the answer. But yeah, just didn't see it at all.
No, I mean it was an odd first round, really, in the sense that like the first 4 questions all went over to the other team, which in a way is, I guess if you're playing it is good because you're getting scores. You're getting points on the board, but equally, you're kind of aware that this is potentially a very tight match. And we saw last week quite what happens when you go to a tie break. Elizabeth and Thea, as you were going through that, I mean, you talked, Thea, I think, about things that you missed or, looking back, you thought you should have got. But how did you feel that first round played out when you were there in the studio?
I think, I don't know, for me, you're so focused on every question that I never really noticed what's happening around that question. So it was quite late in the round, Victoria was like, oh, you guys keep getting each other's answers. And then I was like, oh, yeah, that's true. But until someone else said that, I hadn't noticed that because I was so much every single question, I was like, what's going on? So I kind of didn't, there are obviously patterns occurring, but I didn't notice them in the moment because it's just you're so thinking about the clues and stuff.
Yeah. Is that much the same for you, Elizabeth? You get so absorbed in it.
Yeah, as I said, I don't remember anything from this episode.
You just as soon as the question's gone and you've not got it, you just go, right, forget that now, I've got to move on. We'll talk about it later, but just keep going.
I mean, we ended up going out for drinks and going to Spoons afterwards, so that might have something to do with it.
Cleared it all from your mind. There was one question where, Jack, it looked like you had the answer when your team was, when Sam was delivering it, but something got lost in translation, or maybe you came up with it too late. There was the arguments for apostrophes one. It was it felt like, you were kind of there, but it was just too late.
I definitely had the wrong answer. But I think it was lost in translation, and I sort of jumped in and said it was the previous one or the next one, and it's still wrong. But
I think it was another 5 minutes and we'd eventually got there. But
I mean, Sam, as a captain, once you press the buzzer, how long in studio do you have to give your answer? Do they give you any guidance like you've got to answer within 10 seconds, 15 seconds?
I don't really remember anything. I just remember trying to sort of keep the game flowing, try and say something as quick as I could, even if it was a completely ridiculous guess, rather than just sort of having dead air. Even though I know now in hindsight they'd cut that out, but I don't remember any specific rules. No, but I'm pretty sure she would have just cut us off eventually.
Yeah, I think it's malleable. If you look like you have an answer that you're piecing together, then they'll give you a bit more time. Whereas if you just buzz and say absolutely nothing, I think they'll say, no, you don't know this.
Yeah. I mean, what was nice about both teams tonight was, for the most part, you were giving guesses no matter what. And Stitchers, we were seeing the old, okay, let's go for the first one, repeating again, in the sequences, which, is an oldie but a goodie when it comes to tactics. But were you kind of very conscious of that, when you haven't quite got the answer and the clock is ticking down and then you press a buzzer button, are you aware of that pressure to suddenly fish something out?
I think, I think we definitely we just got to say something. Because also, if you're vague enough, then often she's like, "Oh, can you elaborate?" And sometimes that gives you an extra few seconds to come up with something, which had possibly maybe worked for us once. But it's worth a go.
Yeah.
I think,
That definitely worked for us with the Guy Fawkes thing. That was how we got that answer.
the thing that annoys me when I'm watching at home is always like when people don't buzz and they're at the timer out. I'm like, just buzz and guess something because you never know. There's like a 1 in 100%, like 100 chance that you get it right.
We
It's worth
definitely,
it.
like, because you have to do like a kind of mini practice one before your first episode, and in that one there were a bunch of ones where we ran out of time, we didn't buzz, and then the answer came up and we'd sort of known the answer. So very much after that, for our first episode, we were like, okay, the thing is we just want to say something, whatever it is, we have to say something. So that was kind of, I think, our overarching philosophy, because we really approached this as philosophers. Really, like, that was a thing, that was a thought we had before the first episode. We were like, we very much didn't do that, and then we're like, oh, we should have done is just said anything. So when we said something dumb, it was because the philosophy was like, say anything.
Why we spent so much of the time saying absolute nonsense.
Oh my god, I hate like the absolute, like, the bits where you can see what you're deliberating is absolutely outrageous. It's in the first episode where it's like, it's a maths one, and I go, numbers, it's worth considering. It's actually
in this episode, the one with the Geiger counter and stuff, when it was the book, and we were like, a large heavy book. Yeah.
I remember one like that in our episode, the last one with the Scottish shitties, and it's Inverness, and because like we do cockle, there's always a word one. So I'm like, it's got a V in it. So where's this going next? Like, you just do stupid things when you're trying to work. You're clutching at straws and you're trying to say anything.
There's a few times the Tartars have picked me up saying things that are just completely wrong. Like I remember saying in the one I got 5 points on, I think luckily it's been overshadowed by me getting it right. But I remember saying that Kennedy had 1.5 turns, which is completely wrong.
But you know, sometimes just you've just got to say stuff in the hope that it sparks something else. And I'm always a big fan of the starting to say something in the hope that the answer might come out if you talk for long enough without being told you're wrong. And it's, you know, sometimes it works. We've seen it this series. Sometimes people get inspiration.
The advice I've always given is that teams are more than the sum of their parts, and if you say something, it may jog memories, or it may sort of be the missing piece that somebody's not got.
Yeah, absolutely. Interestingly, when you're talking about not remembering how this game panned out, did anyone drink Meng Po soup, or go to Lacuna Ink, or drink the waters of Lethe, or have a kiss from Superman? I mean, maybe going to Wetherspoons afterwards is the equivalent of drinking those waters.
It was. I remember. Was it Eurovision that night we filmed that? So,
yeah. We watched Eurovision in my hotel room afterwards.
Got a Pizza Hut. So yeah.
Wonderful. Now, normally trash talking happens before you play the match, but Thea on Twitter, you were posting all sorts of scurrilous rumours about the Shrifters. Getting drunk.
I was way worse before we played the Gunners.
So I have visions of them being in a Sue Ryder shop and being force-fed alcohol.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just in it, like the vowels where it was like, who's chronicling the wars? I was the person chronicling that episode of Only Connect, and unfortunately, that's what happened. They were absolutely plastered. I mean, it's a miracle that they won.
I will say that I have a very, very strong memory of Starship Nicki Minaj playing at full blare from their sort of bit of the green room, and me in bunker mentality going, this is to try and make me underestimate them. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I was like literally like shaking back and forth, being like, they're just doing this to unnerve me.
Yeah,
I thought it was Baba Boom. We were definitely line dancing to Baba Boom in the dressing room.
Yeah, we just taught ourselves to line dance, so that became a real thing.
I mean, it was 4-all off the first round, nothing to separate you. Round 2. Now, can somebody explain this? This might be a Gareth is old and out of touch thing. But what on earth is bitch lover child mother?
Oh, it's a song. Which we were annoyed about that because we did know Lover, and I do know that song. Who's it? I don't think it's by, but it's like, I'm a bitch, I'm a lover.
Meredith Brooks.
Is that
Meredith Brooks?
Yeah. But we only recognised the song Lover by Taylor Swift, so we couldn't guess it based on that.
I mean, that was more than us, to be fair. We just knew it was maybe David Bowie in the first one, and then that was literally all we had.
To be fair, I was very sad that we were waiting for Taylor Swift question to come up, and then when it did, we had absolutely no idea what
There's nothing we can do.
Wow.
Yeah, I feel like I've let down the community.
I feel both enlightened and also now embarrassed that I didn't get that, bearing in mind that is absolutely my era, and should have got it. Round 2, we had a lovely lovely get from the Stitchers on the second clue, even if you don't know how to spell affix. But it was a very, very good answer.
Sometimes you panic. Everyone's got spell check these days. It doesn't really matter how you spell stuff. I don't think it does.
But if you get the answer right, does it matter anyway how you got there, as long as you get the answer right?
The answer was right. I think, like, I don't really know much stuff as a person, but the stuff I can only connect is like the cryptic crosswordy stuff. Like, I'm good at the kind of like wordy pattern recognition stuff, so I was just very happy that happened. And then, yeah, I don't know how to spell affix. It transpires. But that's my cross, and I bear it with what some would call quiet dignity.
We had a couple of questions go dead. It's the Stevie Wonder one, which, I mean, Songs of the Key of Life is...
That's the only Stevie Wonder album that I know. So
Yeah.
I'll get the other way around. I had no idea.
The bit where I turned to Sam went, "Oh, that's an album," is not because I recognise Stevie Wonder. It's because there's a Tame Impala album called Inner Speaker, and I recognised that and said, "Oh, it's an album," and I was completely wrong, but somehow right.
You're all probably too young for the Bluey question.
Yeah, I'm aware of Bluey from Quiz, but I didn't twig at the time.
I think
Oh.
I remember
I like
comment as well. That's like, you're either too young or too old for this.
Yeah,
I've just realised the conversation's gone from you're too old to have been a kid at the time to you're too young to have children, which is terrifying.
I mean, technically not, but yes.
Yeah.
Hang on. Tame Impala's such a fraud. He's not even a real Impala. You heard it here first. Again, we had a few that crossed over. Stitches, this is where you started. You just edged yourselves into the lead by just picking up those couple of bonuses. But at 6-7, there's nothing between you. I did like Stitches, the resigned way that one of you said when Estonia 2011 came up. It's probably football, isn't it?
I don't remember that.
But it does sound right, though.
It does sound like the kind of thing we'd say, yeah.
Indeed. Watch it back. You did. From those first 2 rounds, I mean, bearing in mind there's only a point between you, were there any favourite questions that any of you had?
Go on, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I really liked when Dakota Johnson came up, because when watching the episode back, I was like, I didn't help at all on that question. I got fixated on the Dakota Johnson's allergic to limes thing. You can hear me talking about it in the background and not helping.
We watched that question along live in the Discord with a couple of friends, and we were like, "Did we get this one? I don't remember. I don't think we got this one." And then we get it on the show. I'm like, "Oh, we actually did get it right."
It's funny because I think I worked it out the same way both times, in that I recognised Dakota Johnson and somebody else recognised Cynthia Nixon, and that gave me the connection.
Yeah.
One of my really good friends is very into Sex and the City, and when we were discussing it, misidentified Cynthia Nixon as Kim Cattrall, and I've never lived it down, because if and then I've started watching Sex and the City since. It's absolutely nonsense. I love it so much, but it's like it all came too late. Like that would have been the key, but I'm there going to be like, it's Kim Cattrall. It's not. Goddamn.
Oh dear. Any other questions before we move on to the walls? Anybody
I love a word question, and the affix one I think was very clever. Yeah. I like that one a lot.
Yeah.
If you can spell, it's an N. Yeah. Fine.
I will say just a plug that I got the Eurozone one because I'd seen the exact same question for NATO countries in Cockle, and playing Collections Online Quiz League is always very helpful.
There you go. And without wanting to go into quiz news, the finals of Cockle have now been played and are on YouTube. If you want to go onto the Online Quiz League's YouTube channel, and I won't spoil them. Well, I will spoil them if you watch quiz news later. I'll tell you who won. But if you don't want to know that, then go on to those later.
Gareth, do you know who won Division 2?
No, I don't. I only know the Division 1s. Jack,
Jack's
would there
just
be like, some
watching,
sort of
yeah.
vested interest in asking me that?
it was the Euro Thrifters who won Division 2.
Oh, well done, Euro Thrifters. Excellent.
Just completely self-plug there.
Yeah.
Look, we don't mind a bit of self-aggrandizement here. Well done, Jack. That was very good. Doesn't get you a nomination, but you know you've been mentioned now. So it goes to the walls. Stitches. This wasn't your best wall, I think. What went wrong?
I think the main problem was that we didn't know things.
I would say that was the main issue. Yeah.
You did spot pretty much all of the categories one way or another, didn't you? You spotted Eric's and you spotted dogs.
Yeah, the Eric and the dogs, and then we didn't spot the fourth one. And I think that's what we didn't spot it until it was solved for us, and I think that's what we would have needed to narrow it down, because there were so many potential Erics and there were so many potential dogs. It's a take this all the time. Yeah, it wasn't our day. It was not our day.
Yeah, and sadly for you, one of the Erics was a footballer, so that really kind of played into that kind of hatred.
Yeah, we did get a football question right in, I think, our first episode, but so tangentially. Like,
Was that the ball rules one? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, what should, and before we guessed football, we were like, is it what a balloon should be? So we're not like the authorities. Yeah, I don't know. It was very stressful. I hated it.
I think there's a feeling, isn't there, when you're struggling to get a set of 4 solved, and it's hard to avoid a little bit of despair creeping in and a little bit of panic and anguish. You managed to hide that all right and recover and pick up the points for knowing the kind of, well, all right. To me, and you picked up, the points for knowing the groups, but it was, yeah. That wasn't what you needed when you were behind going into the walls, was it? How did you feel afterwards?
I think we were pretty.
Yeah.
I think we were okay.
Okay going into walks. We were doing okay, like, going into it, and then, yeah, it just sort of wasn't. It just wasn't. I think the wall was always like our flop point as a team. Like, that was always when we did the worst, and we always had to make it up afterwards. Like, we only got full marks on the wall in the 3rd episode, so we were always like, this is going to be hard in the other walls. Like, how's it going to go? And it went how it did. Why so many people named Eric? I'll never know.
It's a great mystery. Pam was shouting bone. Bone. There you go. Thank you, Pam. Which, of course, brings us on to the other wall where Sam got to say Willies quite a lot. So
a childhood dream right there.
So talk us through your wall, because in contrast, you spotted things fairly quickly and managed to kind of tick them off. It was like just that extra step that, unfortunately, for the Stitchers, they didn't quite manage to do.
I do find it interesting that both of us found the anagrams first, because I think, like, traditionally people find the anagram stuff later as one of the last groups, but both those teams like to bet on first, because Will is fantastic anagram. I'm all right, but like, compared to Will, he just blows me out of the water, and he like looked at kind of what the 2 words were straight away, and he's like, well, that's an yeah, and it's straight away. And then it just kind of flew in from there, I guess. We spotted all the groups, and it was just sort of working out how do they sort of link together without like sort of leaving 2 groups that we're not sure. So yeah, it just went quite well. It's funny because at home, like, the wall's probably my least favorite round, but for some reason we're quite good at it as a team. So and it's a bit luck as well.
There's always luck. It's, whether you see things, how things fall. If you can solve the tricky one, takes out red herrings. That's critical. You managed to get the full 10 points. You go into missing vowels 16-12 up. Now, because
that was like the one time that was the first time ever we'd been down after a round. So we were doing our heads like, so now we've got 10, we can only be behind by 1. Like, that's the worst case scenario. So that's sort of like how we played it in our heads. And luckily,
I was going to ask, was this the game where did you have an issue with your wall? Because I remember, was this the match that it happened in? So
I think it might have been because we were in the green room for like 10 or 15 minutes. Is that this episode?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we did
we
have
took
an
the
issue.
issue with the
Yeah.
wall when we did it, so it took longer than normal, which obviously it didn't help us with our stress.
Mm.
Yeah, we had to be like talked down by Howell, the floor manager. He had to get he was like telling us trivia, and we were just there like shaking, like
Yeah.
what is happening?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
it
had
just
to,
took longer
like,
and stuff.
take us into a dark corner so that we couldn't see whatever was going on and get a sneak peek. And
What was it? I think they said to us like one of the answers was too small or something. Was that basically what it was? Did
Yeah.
They
It was
say
like,
too
yeah.
big or what? Yeah.
It was one of them was really tiny, and it was just like very confusing, and they had to kind of like let us. It was very like nonsense, and it was very stressful, and we wouldn't have done well even if it hadn't happened. So what can you do? But yeah.
My memory, and it might have been sensational just from memory, but like I seem to recall we were given the option of sort of we're going to swap the walls, but you can if you want because something has gone wrong to just start the round again with 2 new walls. I think that.
Oh wow.
And we just said we're fine with swapping the walls.
Yeah,
if that's
just go
the
with it. Yeah, it doesn't really make a difference. Like,
Interesting. Yeah, we had a wall where, as the answers were coming up, it froze halfway through, and it's like, oh well, you've seen half the answers now. Please leave the room whilst we try and work out what happens, and it does disrupt you a little bit. That has to be said. So you got a lead going into the missing vowels, or if you're stitches, you've got a deficit 4 points. You're just merciless, weren't you, Thrifters? You know, from the off, you were just quick and buzzing in, and really after the first two groups, certainly it was all over.
Well, I think in the practice. I remember the stitches were very good, and especially on the longer ones. So we were kind of a bit worried that like on the longer ones they're probably gonna have us beat here. So luckily, especially the first round was shorter, simpler answers. So that sort of helped settle me a bit, I think, because I was genuinely very worried going into that round.
Yeah.
But it just, like I say, it fell quite nicely again.
And presumably stitches, you were behind, so you knew you had to kind of go for it, but you were just being beaten to the buzzer, or were you just not seeing it?
I think a lot of times we were being beaten to the buzzer. Like I remember kind of like, a lot of my own feeling kind of just afterwards and being like, but still, I mean, 4 points is a lot to try and make up on the vowels anyway. So going into it was like, I'm going to try the best, but like, if it had been even 2 or 3, you'd think that was doable, but 4, you're kind of like, well, it doesn't feel like it's going to happen because it's so hard. And then you guys were so good at vowels. It was crazy. It was terrifying. Congratulations.
It was a brilliant performance. But what we got in the chat, Duncan, Peloponnese War and Thucydides was the answer of the night. And
what a way to go on a high right there. That was amazing.
So hard.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to go out, an answer that makes you seem like a really clever highbrow team, that's got to be a good one, hasn't it?
It's a shame that Rachel's not here to talk about that, but that was kind of like the dream vowel round, considering she's a classicist.
I mean, and we do miss having Rachel here. So hello, Rachel. Before we move on, because we've got Danny in the waiting room, and we're going to need to talk University Challenge. Stitchers, what are your kind of personal takeaways from your Only Connect experience? What was your highlights from it?
I honestly really liked meeting all the crew. I thought they were all so lovely and so nice to us the whole time we were there, and we were quite a excitable team, I would say. So we were a little bit rowdy in the studio, that interrupting by playing Nicki Minaj, for example. It was nice that everyone was so accommodating to us and so lovely when we were in Cardiff. That was probably my favourite part, really, was meeting everyone who works on the show.
Yeah.
How about you, Thea?
Yeah, I would also probably have said that it was nice meeting everyone, but if I've got to say something else, I think like going into the first episode, our attitude was very much like it would be amazing to like win one episode, and that was the whole goal. So it was, I think we very much went with the mentality like we are the underdogs, like we're gonna try our best, but nothing's gonna happen. And I think we did like, it's easy having been knocked out to wish we'd gone further, but we did so much better than we thought we would have done on that first day. So I think it's just kind of nice being like, actually, we're decent at this. Like we're a little bit better at it than we thought we were. We had a lovely time. Like it's nice kind of, I don't know, having like your worst fears definitely not being validated, because it's like, actually we're fine. Like, we weren't on the show as a, I don't know, female diversity hire, which I think maybe we were like, maybe they just need to up the women quotient. Maybe that's why. Yeah, I don't know. It was just a great experience. I'm glad we went a bit further than we wanted to. We had a great time going where we did. It was just lovely. I loved it.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I've just seen Steve's comment, and I find it really funny that people have been saying this, because I did actually go to Newnham, and I was there whilst we were filming. I was actually doing my master's degree at Newnham, so it's quite nice that everyone's been saying this.
Newnham were one of the standout lovely teams from last year's University Challenge. Played with a smile, made it an absolute joy to watch them no matter what was happening in the match, and you very much did as well. Gerard's saying you'll definitely be invited back for a special at some point.
I would give anything. I've made a list of potential specials. I'm going to email them that list.
There's so many like matches they could shoehorn you into. I think you'll be fine. You'll definitely get one, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Jack on the other hand's got his nameplate, so he won't be back. He'll be too expensive.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to move on. Elizabeth, Thea, it's been amazing chatting to you these last, however many episodes you've been on. Thank you so much for coming on. Jack and Sam, hopefully we get, you've got at least 2 more matches now.
I was so chuffed to get to win the quarter. Then you got 2 games no matter what.
Yeah.
Like that was a relief.
Yeah. So we look forward to speaking to you again, hopefully. We are going to have to move on. But thank you all for coming on. If any of you want to stay on and join the chat for University Challenge, you're welcome. Otherwise, you have the length of this trailer for which to press the leave studio and depart. Until next time, because there will be a next time, I'm sure. Goodbye to all of you who are leaving. Goodbye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
There's so much going on in the quiz world, it can be really hard to keep on top of it all. Let us do it for you with the All Things Quiz newsletter. News from All Things Quiz and from the wider world of quiz delivered to your inbox every Tuesday. Sign up at allthingsquiz.com or scan this QR code. Well, there we are. They were so great, and it was a lovely episode of Only Connect. But what an episode of University Challenge we had. I'm delighted to be joined by Danny McMillan from Birkbeck. Hi, Danny.
Hi, Gareth. How are you?
I'm great. How are you after watching that back? That was epic.
Oh, a bit of a wreck. Yeah, I didn't actually like the first one we were on. I didn't remember about half of it, so I kept going. Oh, that's quite a good answer. So yeah, no, I was completely done in by it.
There was also, of course, it now comes to mind. There was an Only Connect connection, wasn't there? We had a relative of yours on Only Connect. Am I remember?
Oh, Alex writes most of the questions. Yeah.
Oh, Alex McMillan. That's right. Yes, that's the connection. I knew there was something. So yeah, you'd been great in the first match, Birkbeck. When you're against York today, what were the kind of hopes and expectations? I guess hopes of winning, but how did you view the match?
Trying to remember at the time. I think we merely just didn't want to embarrass ourselves. I think the first one, it was like, oh, this will just be a bit of a laugh. We'll go up and have a bit of laugh. And then because we won the first one, which didn't necessarily expect to do, we thought, oh well, maybe that we kind of had to, try a bit harder and actually prove something. So it was maybe a bit more tense, and we thought they were going to be quite good as well, and they were, because they went ahead quite a bit at the start, which I didn't remember either. So yeah.
Yeah, because they went ahead first 2 buzzes, 45, and I think one of the differences between the team, or one of the things that kept them closer, it felt like their bonus conversion was higher than yours. So even though you were getting more buzzes, they were still kind of keeping in touch. I mean,
yeah, I think I was always
about it though, is there?
No, all I could really remember were the negs that I had, but I can remember I was so annoyed about them because we knew all their bonuses, whereas we got stuff we just didn't know about, like restoration playwrights and Belgium Grand Prix, and so that was definitely that was what kept them in it, I think. And they were just very good.
Yeah, they were. But interestingly, you talk about your negs. There were 3 of them, but you also got 7 correct buzzes. and we know that we're University Challenge. If you're not first to the buzzer, doesn't matter what you know, you're not getting a chance for anything. And probably of anybody in that episode today, you were the most aggressive. Is that you naturally? Is that how you buzz a quiz naturally?
I don't think so. I think because it was quite close. I felt that someone at the time, I felt that like someone had to take it by the scruff of the neck, and I decided for some reason that should be me. Probably not a great idea, but
I don't know. I mean, you got in with Simon de Montfort. You picked up Henrietta. It was only not until categorical imperative that you negged. So you were coming in, and then you got Pinter and Lister, and you were getting two. Getting a couple before you got negs, but it was critical, really, for your team to be building that lead. Which towards the end, when they got 3 out of 4 of the last buzzes, you needed every one of those points that you'd come in, you come in and got, didn't you? So I mean, it's a risk-reward ratio, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it wasn't. I think it was only the only really, really terrible one was the categorical imperative one. That was an absolutely shocking answer. But yeah, I and what were the other ones? There
was that the PO.
Oh yeah, no, I heard Pomplamoose and just said PO, but yeah, that was
it's
not really.
Yeah, I mean, but in the heat of battle, you don't always hear things terribly clearly anyway in a studio. One thing I did love from you tonight was, I think it was was it a buzz? It was your reaction to Matisse. I think had your team.
I had 2 answers in my head. I went for the wrong one.
Yeah, and there was it's like identify with that kind of zigging when you should have zagged kind of thing. But again, some of the teamwork was fantastic on your team's part tonight. The maths questions clearly fell into your wheelhouse, and you were able to do them up.
Olivia's a maths teacher, and I did a maths degree a long time ago, so that was
So you're able to pick those up. In terms of, I guess, my champagne moment, and was this one of your buzzes? I think my must be
Samir's Angela Carter buzz.
Sorry,
was it Samir's Angela Carter buzz?
No, it's the Groundhog Day question and buzz.
Oh right, that was quite good fun. Yeah,
it was great. And the smile on your face when you were buzzing.
Well, I'd actually never heard that story. I just I remember that. I do remember this. I was just reading it was like, well, it can't be anything else, can it?
It's got to be, yeah. But again, that's a gamble. You don't know that fact.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't know it, but it was it was one of those.
It made sense.
Can't really be anything else, but
yeah. So I did love that. Were there any of the starters that you were beaten to that you were kicking yourself for?
Whales, so fin whale and blue whale. That was and there was something else.
Yeah,
can't remember.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Ty, Mary Button, Pascal, Henry V, Mid Atlantic Ridge, Night Watch, PA. Those
Night Watch. I kind of should have. Yeah, I should have Night Watch. Yeah,
painting in the Rijksmuseum. Yeah, that's kind of the reaction. But you were the player of the match, I think. Nonetheless, your buzzes were critical to your team getting in. Samir got Angela Carter, Margarita got Guys and Dolls, Chickpea and Dyche, which were all critical. I guess what it comes down to in a game where the scores are tied, every single contribution, even if somebody only gave one answer in the entire match, that is still
of course,
getting into that position. As a team, Birkbeck, it's a mature student college, isn't it, in London?
Yeah.
Do you think that gives a different dynamic to a team than perhaps everybody's still living in the same halls or same college kind of situation?
Yeah, probably. I mean, like Samir's a bit younger than us, but the rest of us are all kind of, sort of doing masters in our 30s and 40s. So certainly when it comes to like practice, like I think it's a bit different. Like if you're all living in halls, if you're all living in your Oxbridge College together, you can probably just get together all the time to practice. Whereas we were, maybe once twice a week for a few hours every evening getting it. So we probably don't get to do as much practice. I think at least I'll say this for myself, I think we're much better at kind of, there's definitely some sort of academic knowledge missing, like the bonus set we got about hydrocarbons, which if I did my A-level chemistry like, well, more than 15 years ago now, if I'd have, at the time, I definitely used to know stuff like that, but it's all kind of gone. But I think we've got other kind of general knowledge edge over maybe younger student teams. So it is a bit, it is a bit different. But it was, I think we equipped ourselves as well as we could have done.
And you have been quizzing for a while anyway. I was looking up, it's at least 2019. We were on a Quiz League London Summer League team together. How do you feel?
You were the first. I think the first time I ever did QLL Summer League, you were my captain. So, in some senses, this is all your fault.
Look, Daddy, I will happily be credited as your sensei. That is fine. A young Padawan, if I may mix my. But how do you think that other quizzing you've done helps and prepares you for something like University Challenge?
I mean, it's obviously helpful. I mean, I've never actually done that much buzzer quizzing until I'd done this, actually. So I've never really done that much of that. So that was all kind of new. Like, I think, we just did lots and lots of how we practice was watch old episodes with buzzers and just sit and do buzzer quizzes. So I needed that practice as much as anyone. I think there's probably a lot of stuff that comes up, regularly often in quiz that not necessarily came up with this, but I think it just gives me quite a good broad grounding of knowledge that I probably wouldn't have had otherwise had I not done, QLL for what, was it like 4 or 5 years now? But it's not. I mean, there's lots of. Again, I find this when I do buzzer quizzes as well. Like certainly like academic knowledge, like hard science knowledge, hard ancient history. There's lots of stuff that probably doesn't come up in things like QLL, which comes up in buzzer quizzes. So it's not, it's a bit of both, really.
Yeah, not a huge crossover, but nonetheless, there might be some stuff that you pick up because some answer lines just repeat, don't they? Time and time again. I mean, I sat there I was sat there whilst you were trying to get through those hydrocarbons ones. And firstly, it was like, this is something I would never know. But when you go, is it ester? It's like, that's exactly what I'll be saying here because it's a word I know that seems to be broadly related to this thing.
And then once we said it once, that was the only
it is just a classic thing. In terms of bonus sets, you said about then some of the bonus sets that you missed out on. Were there any that were particularly kind of gnawing at you when you watched?
There was the one they got about like Agnes Varda and Alain Robbe-Grillet. Because Amal Rajan makes a comment going, "Oh, they knew the answer," because me and Margot were kind of making faces at each other, which she shouldn't really have done. It probably looked quite bad. I'm glad they didn't show it on the television. So there's definitely that one. The historians with names that are initials.
Yes.
I would have had all those.
Yeah. And I mean, I marked that out as my favorite. I did a history degree when you got people like E.P. Thompson and A.J.P. Taylor. It's like, oh yes, this takes you right back. But I did like. We've got some. Comment. Chris says, "Champagne moment." Eric B and Rakim.
That was famous. Yeah.
But it was so familiar, and it was like, but I just can't get there. And I think it's because in my mind I was thinking of so and so featuring so and so rather than Eric B and Rakim. But I did like that bonus set. I thought that was a very nice bonus set.
It was really good. And before, I've actually subsequently since read it, but there was an unread copy of Paul Gilroy's Black Atlantic on my table. So I was like, if only I'd read it, I would have got that. Would have pulled that Winston Marsalis one out. But that was hard.
Yeah, it was hard.
That was a hard one. And you didn't. They've edited that. I think we had quite a long discussion where we said about 20 names, none of which was Winston Marsalis.
But if you've got no idea on the date, then all you're going on is, okay, when was this style kind of in vogue? So that was a tricky one. You what else did you have? Women in British science, female actors playing Hamlet was a nice set.
Oh yeah.
But any others that you particularly liked?
Oh yeah, should have had Somerville, shouldn't we, on the science one? That was probably a bad miss.
I mean, it either comes to you or it doesn't, though, doesn't it? That's the thing. And you dodged away from an obvious wrong one, but didn't quite get to the right one in the end.
Yeah. Oh, and the because we got the picture bonuses.
Yeah.
Because they were.
Yeah.
Because I think did we say? I think we came up with Suzanne for some reason, discounted it, which is quite bad. Yeah.
When you get to the end and the gong goes, and blimey, Amel was going fast at the end, probably the fastest we've seen him reading. He felt like he wanted that tiebreak. Presumably, there's a pause at that point between the gong going and then getting you ready for the tiebreak. Did you have any kind of discussion at that point? Was the team kind of were you kicking yourselves over things?
I think because obviously you stop and they pause and they reset everything. I think I kept mainly turning around and sort of apologizing, being like, "I'm so sorry, this is my fault," because I nagged everyone. Was like, "Will you shut up?" I think that's about all I can remember. I was just quite angry with myself.
But again, as we said, without the buzzes that you did, you wouldn't have been in that situation. But I guess knowing that you'd been heavily hitting the buzzer, but you'd also negged, was there any kind of temptation to sit back? Well, I was going to say, was there any temptation to sit back in the blocks? You didn't, did you? You absolutely dived in with it. So yeah, literally, was that just that kind of?
Amal did do his dramatic pause.
Yes.
I genuinely, for about 2 seconds, I thought, I got this wrong.
Yeah, that was a little bit mean of him to do that. But so when you heard Pat Barker, and
straight away,
moment that was such a fast buzz.
In the door.
Yeah, so you come out of that having been beating yourself up before the tiebreaker. Being the absolute hero of the match. How long does it take you to come down from that sort of adrenaline high?
Quite a while. I think I was just actually knackered completely. So because it's sort of because they finish and then they want you to do retakes and stuff. So we sat there for quite a while, and then they rush you out, and then we had to go and check back into hotels. There's lots of faffing around.
Yeah.
So no, it took me quite a while. I mean, because we recorded the next one the next day, and I essentially didn't sleep at all. Partly because I couldn't sleep in the hotel, and partly still just like buzzing,
replaying it.
Yeah. So,
I mean, it was amazing TV. We've got kind of Amal's pause was cruel. We've got perfectly timed TV pause at the end there. That's just that's how it is. It just made for absolutely brilliant TV. You played a part in a fantastic match, a key part in a fantastic match. You're now into, I don't know what they call this next round. Is it quarterfinals? But it's one where you get like 2 matches. Is that right?
Yeah, so they do call it quarterfinals. So it's the Swiss pair thing. So you've got to win 2 out of a possible 3.
Yeah. So presumably Birkbeck at that point must be thinking, we're happy with how we've done. Was that that your ambition? A lot of teams to get to that stage, or
definitely
because they on the final.
Yeah, because it also meant that you had to go back because they record it over 3 weekends. So this is the 2nd weekend, and then that guaranteed that we were going back for the 3rd weekend. So we sort of felt like that was quite an achievement that we got to go to every recording weekend.
Yeah. I mean, it was brilliant. It's such a good end to a fantastic Quizzy Monday. And we really appreciate you coming on, Danny, and chatting to us about it and entertaining.
I'm on another adrenaline high now. It's like
well, that's it. Keep that adrenaline going.
I was completely wrecked. As I say, like the first time, I've managed to block out most of the stuff that I got right. So I was sort of like, it was a bit of a surprise to me when I got some stuff right. So I was like, I was a nervous wreck watching it.
Brilliant. Past You was so good. Present You must be very proud of Past You.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for coming on, Danny. Really appreciate you coming on. We're going to be moving on to our mastermind predictions and quiz news. So I am going to play a short video, during which time, unless you want to stay on and chat about Mastermind,
Didn't
you
watch
are
it.
free to click leave studio and depart. But so glad to have had you on, Danny. Thank you.
No,
so
thanks very much, Gareth.
Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Huge thanks to our community of All Things Quiz members. Your support helps us to keep this channel going. It pays for essential running costs. Now, if you want to become a member of All Things Quiz, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/allthingsquiz. And from £3 a month, you not only get to support the work of this channel, but there are a range of member benefits available, including our monthly quiz. Hope to see you soon. Thank you again to all of our patrons. Your support means the world to us. So let's have a quick look at Mastermind before we move on to the world of quiz. This week, these were the top predictions, and some of them came in. Bridget Riley, we had, I don't know if any of those came in actually. Winter Olympics, Stephen Bradbury, I think, came in. Sitcoms of Peter Kay, I'm not sure about that. But yes, St Albans, 4 really nice subjects, and again, this was a tight match. There was 2 points, I think, between first and third. Elliot Hewson got us off to a decent start, 9 points on Bridget Riley. Thomas Wetherell struggled a little on the Winter Olympics. Loads of information, winners, losers, second, thirds, all sorts of events and venues and the like to revise. Really horrible subject, really. And he struggled. But Faye didn't struggle with the sitcoms of Peter Kay. She'll be kicking herself, perhaps at missing the Lisa Stansfield answer in Brimful of Asher, but 10 points put her in the lead. And Liz Davidson, a nice subject, History of St Albans, but she couldn't quite nail it. There was just felt a little bit slower in her 6 points. The knowledge was there, clearly, but she didn't quite put herself among the contenders. So then we had in the general knowledge, it was good to see everybody kind of do themselves justice in the general knowledge. 10 points from Thomas showed that 4 points was a little bit of a freak result. 11 for Liz showed that she really had got some knowledge. Double figures again for Elliot, and then it was down to Faye. And Faye just didn't quite manage to get a run going. And unfortunately for her, she finished on 18 points and Elliot finished on 10. So congratulations to Elliot for winning that and getting into the semi-finals. But as ever, well done to all of them for putting themselves up for it. It's, putting yourself in the chair and facing Clive, that's no mean feat in itself, and it should be applauded. Without people doing that, we don't have a show. So well done, all of them. But we look forward to seeing Elliot in the next round. Now, what did that mean for our Mastermind predictions? Well, seismic. 5 points for Tom Mead, Philip Isaac, and Tim Hall. Pam got 4. Well done, Pam. Michael Partland and Jane Hill. She's actually on the series. Both got 3. Toby Atala, 2, and a clutch of you getting 1 point, including our leader, Ed Mason. Well, I say he was our leader. It's now a tie at the top. Ed Mason and Philip Isaac, and Pam has moved into second. We've seen some heavy scoring in recent weeks, and we got somebody get a question in the general knowledge from the cunning plan of having put, was it Tom Mead, from having put blue as his answer. And we see a few people with cagey answers like that, which can mean multiple things. So well done to Tom. But yeah, we've got a tussle at the top between Ed and Philip, with Pam, Tim Hall. They're hunting them down. There's a whole clutch of people, actually. There's so many episodes to go. We'll see. If you want to play Mastermind Predictions next week, these are the subjects. Meatloaf, Grinling Gibbons. Now we're going to have Helen Lepel on from the Quiz League of London. She is doing Grinling Gibbons, the carver, I suppose that's her name, for what he did. So we'll have her on next week. England's Women's Cricket since 2000, and Life and Poetry of Gerard Manley Hopkins. You can submit your predictions to tinyurl.com/mm-predict-23, and I think that should be open now, is it, Valerie? It's open. So if you want to start putting your your predictions in, you've got till Sunday evening at 9 o'clock. And Pam saying in the chat she guessed eagle instead of egret, which did come up. So yes, play along if you want to. Now, let us have a look at Quiz Week, news from the world of quiz. Last week's Quizzer of the Week. Now, Dan Adler won Brain of Britain. He might feel himself a little unfortunate, but it's testament to the popularity of John Stitcher, the founder of Online Quiz League, that his first ever full house in Quiz League got him Quizzer of the Week. I don't think Dan would begrudge John, given what John has contributed to the quiz world. Pat Gibson winning his winning the Quizzing Grand Prix came third. Suncatchers from Only Connect were first in Team of the Week. India for winning the Asia Pacific Quizzing Championships came second, and University of Manchester from University Challenge came third. So now let's look at the nominations for next week. Let me just zoom my screen in a bit. So, Quiz of the Week nominees. Vinu Sanjay was the individual champion at the Asia Pacific Quizzing Championship. For a long time, Vinu has been the #1 quizzer based in India. If you take the World Quizzing Championships as a guide, and Vinu followed that up with the Asia Pacific title. Evan Lynch won Quiz in the North tournament held in Wakefield at the weekend. That's his first win in that competition, as Evan tries to win everything going. In broadcast quizzing, Li Chaofan is the champion of the Chinese National Treasures quiz, so well done to Li Chaofan. Counterpoint has restarted on Radio 4. Anju Sharda won Heat 1, and we saw earlier Elliot Houston won Mastermind that heat. Nominees from quiz leagues and other tournaments, Kevin Ashman and Harry Heath both got OQL full houses. Well done to them, particularly to Harry, a friend of All Things Quiz. Great to see him do well. In the International Culture Challenge, Evan Lynch and Jonathan Gibson both got 15 out of 15. Patrick Friel got OQL USA, an OQL USA full house. Patrick won the latest Learned League Championship. Hot off the press, Dan Burgess won the latest edition of Pop Solos, the pop culture quiz in America, and he got an OQL USA full house in a fantastic week. In the Quiz World Series from Mimir as well, Sean Webb, Patrick Carthy, and Pat Gibson all got 13 out of 15. Fundus League has started again in the international competition. Calvin Christ was the top player based on the QLO rankings, and Samantha Subramanian was the top in the Indian track based on QLO. Events-wise, in Quiz in the North, Pam got a win in there. Yes, Cook, Douglas, Pitt, and Rhodes. Lawrence Cook, Pam Douglas, Joel Pitt, Steve Rhodes won the Quiz in the North team quiz. Well done to them. In broadcast quizzing, we've seen it tonight. Thrifters won Only Connect. Birkbeck won University Challenge. Quiz leagues, again, hot off the press. Zoomsbury Group are the Cockle champions, Connections Online Quiz League, and No Hat Mafia won the American equivalent. In Portugal, Manos Castro were top scorers in Quiz Nations Portugal, and the Four Horse Girls of the Apocalypse drew with OQL USA's Division 4 a Sapphire leaders. One thing I forgot to mention with Quiz in the North was that Evan won. Second, I believe, was Alan Gibbs, then Clive Dunning, Lawrence Cook, and Michael McPartland made up the top 5 there. Now you can vote at tinyurl.com/QW11deck23. Voting is open until Friday, when we will announce the winner on the channel. Things still to sign up for. Pop Culture Challenge starts on 20th of January. Go to quizcentral.net. Chinese Poetry Quiz, if you're in China, you can scan that QR code. And OQL's Live 8. See the OQL Facebook groups, more details about their events coming up next year. All of our links are in the link tree that you can see below. And I think that is probably it. Except to say you can nominate people for Quizzer and Team of the Week at tinyurl.com/ATQ nominations. There are no shout outs because I did that shout out for the Quiz in the North folk. So I believe that is it for tonight. Thank you. Oh, hang on. Pam says she got a tub of Quality Street all for herself for winning that. And apparently, Train Travelers had fun getting back. Oh, hang on. No, I did miss something. Polly the Parrot didn't get a nomination. Polly gets mentioned in dispatches. Look, everybody, it's been a fantastic night. Thanks so much to the Stitchers and the Thrifters for coming on, and for Danny telling us about University Challenge. We will be back next week. Our guests will include Helen Lepel. Hope you'll be here with us. And we look forward to another fantastic week of quizzing next week on Quizzy Monday. Until then, goodbye, everybody.